Hi, for the next 20 minutes or so, I want to look at Chapter 8 of Wheelock's Latin. In particular, in this chapter, he introduces what's called the third conjugation. So here we go. First of all, I want to warn you about brain cell alert. It's not that there's anything particularly difficult in these chapters. It's easy to understand any one concept. The problem is that we're beginning to accrue a lot of details. And details take up brain space. And some of us have these great memories that can remember all kinds of details. And others of us, it seems like we just have to shove in more and more and more and more. And for those of us who have this problem remembering details, you're just going to have to practice. You're going to have to make cue cards and just go through them. Ideally, you can do it at random. That you can do it with the words taken off, just looking at the endings. I think that that's not the way words come at you in a language. So if you can somehow put the endings on words and begin to get a feel of them as individual instances of the endings rather than paradigms, but you're going to have to find your own path. You have your own brain. Not everybody's brain works the same way. But I do want to warn you that you may at this point begin to feel memory fatigue, where you're just trying to shove so much into a small bit of brain space. Although some of you may have photographic memories and you may be scoffing at me right now. But let's go on where angels fear to tread. So let's review a little bit. Nouns are divided into declensions. We call when you go down a chart, we call that declining the noun. So all the Romans got all the nouns together one day, and they divided them up into 5, different declensions. We have seen 3 of them. We saw the first declension in chapter 2. Then we saw the second declension in chapters 3 and 4, I think it was. Hopefully, the first and second declensions are now like old friends. You may want to go out and have a root beer with them. The good old days when it was just the first and second declension. Last chapter 7, I think it is, we were introduced to the third declension. Actually, I love the third declension. The third declension has some of the favorite nouns in it. I just love it. I wish we could have started with the third declension. The problem is that we're now, when you hit chapter 7, you're already shoving a lot of stuff into that head of yours. And so you may not have been able to enjoy the third declension as much as you should have. But the third declension is to be savored and to enjoy. In fact, now that we're in chapter 8, one of the words, third declension words, is ratio, reason. What a fine noun that is, ratio, having reason. It's a third declension now. A noun, ratio, rationis. Isn't that lovely? But unfortunately, we're beginning to run out of brain cells. Some of you maybe, and so you may have to spend a little time with the third declension. Take a weekend, go off with the third declension, and get to know it. It's a great declension, great words. So this chapter now adds the third conjugation. Again, the day after they got all the nouns together, they got all the verbs together, and they divided them up into 4 conjugations. The good news is, of course, that with the third conjugation, there's only one left. And the fourth conjugation is a pretty easy conjugation. Unfortunately, the third conjugation we're going to learn today is a little bit more complicated than the first, second, and fourth conjugation. Actually, the first, second, and fourth conjugations are pretty easy, I think. But the problem with the third conjugation in Latin is that it's a wimp. They're wimpy verbs. They run away. They cower. They cave. They're small. They're short. Let's just say they're short. And so the third conjugation is a little bit more involved. Not too bad. I mean, why am I getting you all worked up? You wouldn't have even thought anything. You'll, in fact, scoff at me. I want you to have a good laugh at me at the end of this video and say, "Wow, that was really easy," and he acted like it was a big deal. I must be smarter than he is. That's what I want you to think when this video is over. Okay, well, let's review again. What about the first and second conjugations? And again, don't worry about words like conjugation. That's just what they call. You conjugate a verb, you decline a noun. Don't ask why, just memorize or die. So here's the first conjugation. Laudo, laudos, laudat. Laudamus, laudatus, laudant. By the way, you probably don't care, but if you want to get a sense of the way these long and short vowels work, the second person singular, the first person plural, the second person plural, they tend to have those long vowels. The third person singular and plural tend to have short ones, and then this goes its own way with the O anyway, so you already knew that was a long O. Again, you don't have to know that to translate Latin, but if any of you are purists out there and have a little extra brain space, that's what's going on with these long vowels. So I praise, you singular praise, he, she, or it praises, we praise, y'all praise, they praise. That was easy. The first conjugation is long A, so the infinitive is laudare. Okay, fine. And we know the endings, right? O-S-T, M-U-S-T-I-S-N-T, O-S-T, M-U-S-T-I-S-N-T. No problem. The second conjugation uses the same endings, O-S-T. Oh, I made a mistake. I did that on purpose just to test you. This is not mones, this is monemus. Sorry, I'm not perfect. I knew you thought I was. I have failed you. It's monemus, monetus, monent. O-S-T, M-U-S-T-I-S-N-T are the endings. And the second conjugation is a long E conjugation. So its infinitive is monere with a long E. Again, if you're interested, second person singular, first person plural, and second person plural are where the long vowels come. The third singular and plural do short vowels, and then of course the first singular has the long O. This is all by way of review. Does that look familiar? We had that way back in the first chapter. Go have a root beer with the first and second conjugation. They're easy. Remember that. They were nice. Those were the good old days, weren't they? Way back in chapter 1 when we were first putting in verbs for the first time. Now, welcome to the third conjugation. First, let me say that the endings are the same. O-S-T, M-U-S-T-I-S-N-T. And since the overwhelming majority of those who would be watching this video are going from Latin to English, you might not be bothered by this short I. Agus, agate, agus, ago, agus, agate, agamus, agatus, agunt. Again, there's no G sound in Latin. It's all G. But, so, it's ago, it means I lead. It has endings that I recognize, so what's the big whoop? You're right, it's not a big whoop. The infinitive, agere, is a short E. So the second conjugation is the long E, monere. The third conjugation, however, is a short E, agere. It's a wimpy E, a short E. And you see it even goes away. The E was such a coward it didn't even stay away for the present tense. It declined it disintegrated into a little I and a U there. IOU are the present vowels. We saw the IOU in the future of sum, ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt. Maybe forget that. Forget that one. I'm sorry I even told you. Just memorize. Ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erint. Erimus, eritis, erunt. That's the future of sum. I will be. Just memorize it and forget the vowels. But IOU are used for the present in the third conjugation. Again, I don't know if it's important that you know that. I suppose it is because of the next slide. But again, okay, you might be thinking, oh, that's easy. You got me all worked up. I lead, a you singular leads, a he, she, or an it leads, we lead, y'all lead, they lead. What's the big whoop? Here's the second singular imperative. So if you want to say lead, O man, or lead, O woman, age. It's not age. Again, I hope you have anglified yourself enough to know that that's age. Lead, it's not age. And then agate means not agite, but agata is y'all lead. Somebody lead. Okay, third conjugation. That's not too hard, really. If it was just this, you know, I wouldn't say that there was a big deal. The next slide, you're going to see why the third conjugation is a little annoying. Here we have it, the future. Prepare thyself for the future. you're immediately going to notice that our nice and friendly bo, bis, bit, bimis, bitis, bunt of the future has gone away. And so you're going to have to learn now that A and E is the channel of the future. Anybody ever watch A&E? I don't think I do, but anyway, there is a channel. I notice it occasionally when I'm flipping through, looking around and around, looking for something interesting and not finding it because I don't have the pay channels. And so I just have all the boring ones, and I go round and around and around, and I never find anything. But maybe one day you'll find that A&E is indeed the channel to watch. A and E, those are the connecting vowels that indicate the future tense of a third conjugation verb. So again, you might say, well, how am I going to know it's a third conjugation verb? Well, the only way is if you know your vocabulary. So I know that this is the word ago. I know that its infinitive is agere with a short E. Therefore, I know that this is a third conjugation verb, and therefore I know that A and E is the channel of the future. The endings are familiar. M, I'm used to M by now as a alternative first-person singular, but the rest are the same. S-T, M-U-S-T-I-S, N-T. Okay, that's all fine. So I know the endings. The clue that this is future tense is the A in the first-person singular and the E's everywhere else. So the E's and the A in the third conjugation indicate that it's future. So I will lead, you singular will lead, a he, she, or it will lead, we will lead, y'all will lead, they will lead. So A and E is the channel of the future. That's the way to know that it's future tense, because of the A and E. And that only takes place, I'm probably wrong about the only, but I'm going to say for now, of all the things we've had so far, it only takes place in the third conjugation, where I'm going to know it's a third conjugation verb, because its infinitive is going to be a short E, like agere. Lots of verbs, I think, have compound verbs in English have ago as one of the roots. I'm trying to think of one, and nothing's coming to mind. But anyway, no, I'm just going to move on. Okay, so I'm sure there are derivatives in the chapter. The imperfect of a third conjugation verb is more normal. Bom, bas, bot, bomus, botus, bont. That's okay. And you can see that the E has lengthened, not important, before the bom, bas, bot, bomus, botus, bont. So this is I was leading, you singular were leading, a he, a she, or an it was leading, we were leading, y'all were leading, they were leading, some they were leading. Again, this one's not hard. So the things I've shown you are really not that difficult, except for the future tense. So what is the big deal, Ken? What is so crazy about the third conjugation? Only the future. And if you can get that A and E is the channel of the future, you're probably okay. That is to say that in the third conjugation, the way it makes its future tense is by using the connecting vowels A in the first person singular and E in all the other persons and numbers. Okay, so that's pretty much the chapter. I did want to show you that it's becoming more important now to pay some attention to the full vocabulary form in Wheelock. I mentioned this in the previous chapter, chapter 7, on third declension nouns. The genitive form of a third declension noun might be surprising, like virtus, virtue, virtutis, where a T comes out of nowhere. Letters, I called the third declension the jack-in-the-box declension because new letters pop up. So for that chapter, chapter 7, it has become more important to pay attention to not just the nominative form of the word, but the genitive form of the word in the third declension nouns, because that genitive form is going to tell you the chassis of the car on which all the different versions of the car are built. The form of the noun on which all the other cases and numbers are built. So it's actually the nominative singular in the third declension that's odd. Now, with this chapter, chapter 8, I want to point out that some of these other forms, so the first person is, the first principal part, it's called the present system. It's called the present. the present system is built off of this first chassis, is okay. That looks normal. It has a long O. What's the big deal? The infinitive has a short E in the third conjugation, but okay, fine, whatever. Agere, ducere, to lead, scribere, ere, to write. No problem. I got that. It's in these next two parts that you haven't had yet. This is called the perfect system. We've had the imperfect tense, but the imperfect tense is built off of this first chassis. One day, and a day coming up, I don't know when, but it's coming up in Wheelock at some point in the future, we're going to get the perfect system. It's another kind of past tense. Again, you don't need to know this today. You don't need to know it. But I just want to point out that you'll see that things are getting funky. If you've been paying any attention to that third principal part in the verbs we've had so far in Wheelock, they've been pretty normal. Amo, amare, amawi with a vi, amatum. Okay, that's pretty standard. However, the third conjugation begins to occasionally get a little funky. So like duxi, where'd that X come from? Screepsy, where'd the P come from? Where'd the S come from? B's and P's, by the way, are related. If you ever take a linguistics course, B, P, they're both made with the lips. They're called labial consonants. B is voiced, B. P is unvoiced, P. So they're actually related, but you got some crazy linguistic phonetic stuff going on. And here it actually changed the vowel from an A to an E. What's going on here? You don't need to know, and you don't need to know today. I just wanted to warn you that the third conjugation, in terms of the long term, it's going to be worth your investment if you dedicate a few brain cells to memorizing the other forms of these dictionary of these words. The ones we've had so far have been fairly predictable. Third conjugation begins to get a little more complicated. Well, this has been my attempt to give you some notes on Chapter 8 on the third conjugation. I'm less than 18 minutes. Aren't you proud of me? I hope this has been helpful. We'll see you next time.